a game, a 42-38 loss to the San Francisco 49ers, a game in which the Chicago Bears defense was not great at all. But I do think it was a game that Caleb Williams showed what he can be in that type of game where he played really well. And so because of that, we're going to take a look at the winners and losers from yesterday's game as far as players' standpoint of it and everything as we do after every game. Then we're going to look at how the Bears can still clinch the number 2 seed in the NFC after the number 1 seed is now off the table after the loss to the Niners. We're going to get into all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. I want to start off talking about the standouts from yesterday's games and the duds from yesterday's game. So as far as the standouts, got to talk about it first. Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams has shown a lot over the course of the season, and while Caleb haters are an interesting bunch of people, Caleb Williams went 25 of 42 for 330 yards, 2 touchdowns with no turnovers, wasn't sacked at all. And when you look at it as well, like the way that Caleb Williams has grown under Ben Johnson, things are looking really damn good. You look at the 2 deep touchdowns that he threw to Luther Burden, Colston Loveland at 35 and 36 yards respectively. He was able to keep up with Brock Purdy and his performance for the most part when it came down to that one. Of course, there were some execution things. There were some times, there were some drops, there were some missed throws by Caleb. There was all of that a little bit, but unfortunately, Caleb wasn't able to complete the comeback. It would have been, the league's 7th best, or league best 7th fourth quarter comeback if the Bears would have come back and won that game. But hey, when you look at the drive again, the Iceman came out again in that game, and you're starting to see the conversation around Caleb right change, and I think that's a really good thing. When it comes down to that one, is that the national, not because of the national media, but just the fact that Caleb Williams is performing at the biggest stages, and that was a really good game by Caleb, and I got to give him some love on that one for what he was able to do, and we'll see how that turns out and how he can now, build off of that for the playoffs, and we shall see. Next up, Luther Burden. Luther Burden had himself an absolute monster of a game last night, and he continues to show himself to maybe even, I think you can still call him a steal, even for where he was drafted at. 8 catches on 138 yards, a touchdown on only 9 targets as well. He had his first drop, uncharacteristic drop of him. It was actually Colston Loveland's first drop. But Luther Burden is having everything that you look at, that you see he can become an absolute star in this league. And I don't say that just because he's a Chicago Bear. It's be saying that no matter what player it was. Like, Luther Burden has the potential to be a star wideout, not just a good wideout, a star wideout in this league. In a game where there was no Rome Odunze, in the game where DJ Moore was sick and was unable to really perform in the fourth quarter like we've seen him able to do, Luther Burden came out into that game and had a huge day. You got to give him credit. On the season, Luther Burden, 617 yards receiving, an average of 14 yards per catch there, 2 touchdowns as well as he has. And keep in mind, this is a guy who we were talking about through the first 3-4 weeks of the season, wasn't even in the game plan as often as what we would have liked. He also missed 2 games on the season as well. So, all those things there. But Luther Burden has had 44 receptions on 56 targets. This dude is looking like he's going to be an absolute weapon. The chemistry with him and Caleb Williams is already there. You just love to see what Luther Burden is really turning into, and we're seeing him blossom right in front of our eyes. And last night's game was a perfect example of the star that he can have. Getting a left leg injury on the final play of the game, it seems like there's not really too worried that it's going to be anything too serious. It seems like we'll see what happens there. But things are just looking really good for Luther Burden. And as we get to the playoffs and hopefully get Rome Odunze healthy and DJ Moore gets that illness off, this wide receiver core is going to be important for the playoffs, important for the growth of Caleb, and it's going to be something that Ben Johnson can scheme all up and down and day with as far as what we're building with this. And his draft mate, Colston Loveland, also gets one of the standouts in this game. You look at these 2 rookies and what they've performed at and how they performed for the Chicago Bears has been great. Yes, Colston Loveland had his first drop on the season at a very inopportune time, unfortunately, in the fourth quarter of that game. But outside of that, Colston Loveland just continues to be an absolute stud of a weapon for the Chicago Bears. One of the best route runners on this team overall. 5 touchdowns now on the season, 622 yards on 48 receptions. The kid has played amazingly well over the course of this season. And again, one of the bright spots as far as when you look at what the Bears can turn into under Ben Johnson as the offensive play caller, you got to talk about him with that. 6 receptions for 94 yards, that big 36-yard touchdown reception from Caleb Williams. He's turned into a hugely reliable target. And while the season started off with Rome Odunze clearly being Caleb Williams' favorite weapon, you're seeing slowly but surely Colston Loveland, Luther Burden getting right up there. And what does that mean? That means that Caleb has used this season to build amazing chemistry with Colston, Luther, and already building off the chemistry he had with Rome Odunze. And these are all players that are going to be here for a long time under Ben Johnson. And so it's glad that this season has been really kind of a big step in that direction of showing what they can be going forward into the future. So listen, the Bears offense did what it needed to do last night at times. Like, it wasn't perfect. It's never going to be perfect for this Bears team. But when you look at those 3 players, man, they all had big nights. And that's not to say DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai didn't have their moments either. But those are the guys I'm really looking at on the offensive side that were huge studs for the Chicago Bears. They had themselves a night. And this is a playoff caliber offense. Just no ifs, ands, or buts about it anymore. There are going to be people that still question it. The Bajan baddies have had to be a little bit more quiet over this as well. But you look at these 3 guys and what they're developing into, and the fact that as much as Caleb, we don't have a 1,000-yard receiver on this team yet, but you look at the number of players that we do have that have a lot of yards. Let's look at our receiving core. 671 yards for DJ Moore, 666 for Rome Odunze, 622 for Colston Loveland, Luther Burden with 617. Like, you look at those guys, and they've all missed a nice chunk of games at times as well, except DJ Moore. He's the only one to play in all 16 games so far. But there's a lot to be said about how much talent there's still left to uncover in this one. And Caleb Williams has a chance for 4,000 yards. And still, I think the 30 touchdowns are kind of out of question with him having 25 on the season right now. But Caleb Williams with 3,730 yards on the season so far, 233 yards per game that he has. The completion percentage is at 58%. That does need to be better, of course, no doubt about that. But there's just some things that have taken huge steps forward under Ben Johnson. And as long as Ben Johnson is the guy that's guiding the development of Caleb Williams and this offense, I feel pretty damn confident in it. But we do have one standout on the defensive side of the ball as well, Austin Booker. Austin Booker had himself a game. 3 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 sack, 2 pass breakups, and a QB hit. He was one of the only players to get into the face of Brock Purdy, rattle Brock Purdy a little bit, because Purdy was completely killing the Chicago Bears defense, getting what he when he wanted it. And Austin Booker showed up big at times. Montez Sweat was almost there a lot, almost Montez. That's the thing there. But Austin Booker, who came into the season after his performance in the preseason and looked like he was ready for a jump-off year, has really stood out a lot for the Chicago Bears. And I love the fact that he continues to develop as well. Gotta love that one. But let's get into the duds in it. And the Bears defense was absolute god-awful. I was going to pick out certain players in the defense, but really when you look at it, you can say the entire defense as a whole, right? The Bears were facing off against one of the top offenses in the league with the 49ers, but allowing 42 points. And especially when your offense got you the lead late in that game, and you just needed to stop. You just needed one stop. The run defense was god-awful trash, 140 yards, 200 yards in total grounds on the game, on the ground in the game. The Bears need to revamp the defensive line. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I get it. We've had major injuries all throughout the year. Noah Sewell is feared to have torn his Achilles. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But just overall in this game, the defense, it just didn't do what it needed to do. And we got words from Jaquan Brisker we'll get into on that as well. Fuck it. We can get into it now. Jaquan Brisker saying this: we let the offense down. I'm going to say we let the offense down, period. I feel like Caleb and them gave us enough points to do what we needed to do to win. The defense didn't. And I love to hear that from Jaquan Brisker, because he's right. The defense didn't do enough of what it was, and somebody needs to call it out because this was a game where you just needed your defense to make a couple of more stops in this one. And I get it. You're up against the 49ers. This is a team that put up a lot of points. This is a team that moves the ball, all that type of stuff. I get it. Injuries to Kyler Gordon, who wasn't there. Jalen, who wasn't there at parts this season. Deshaun Wright has been a great story, but he wasn't great in last night's game. The defense sold last night. It left a big gapping hole for what we needed from this team. The defense just didn't do it. The pass rush wasn't there. The run defense, not there. It wasn't there. We were completely Swiss cheese on the defensive side of the ball. And while the Ryan Poles and this Bears team focused on the offensive line this offseason, and they did a great job on it, you have to focus on improving this defense this offseason. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. No matter where this team finishes this year, you have to drastically improve your defense. You have to get better performance out of that. We cannot keep having games where, and I want to be clear, it hasn't always been the defense. There have been times where the defense did get stops in games and the offense couldn't score, but we scored in every single quarter last night. Unfortunately, so did the fucking San Francisco 49ers. The Bears need to be better on the defensive side of the ball, and until that happens, it's always going to be a bit of a struggle for us. We're always going to have to be that team that has to have the late game drives to win games like this, to win playoff caliber games, because the defense doesn't get enough stops at keys when we need it to. And that the Bears defense was just, I don't want to put it all on the defense. I want to be clear. There were some other things that could have happened, some execution things that even with the defensive play that we could have still overcome, but the defense completely sold last night, and it's just unacceptable. We need better from this Chicago Bears defense night in and night out. Outside of that too, I'm somebody who I don't like to blame officiating, right? And I want to be clear. The Bears, even with the way that the officiating went, could have still won this game yesterday. But let's be clear here. This officiating crew last night, that was some bullshit at times in this game, right? You look at the two calls that changed this game. The hands to the face call on C.J. Garner-Johnson, which would erase an interception that would have been a momentum-changing interception by Jalen Johnson on that play. That was bullshit. That was bullshit. Go back and look at that. This isn't me in homerism. Go back and look at that. That was not a hands to the face. They should have not called that one. That was a bullshit. The San Francisco 49ers then go on and score a touchdown the next play after that as well. Then you look at the another one, right? The other phantom call that happened with this one. Javon Dexter was called with a hands to the face as well that led to the game-winning touchdown that it became for the San Francisco 49ers. The Bears defense deserves a huge part of the blame, no doubt about that. But the officiating in this game was porous at best. It was trash at best. And I think this is the first time this season when I've done this episode the day after games, when I give out winners and losers, whatever I decide to call it that week, that I've actually blamed officiating and put officiating on the list. Officiating was god-awful last night. But again, even with that, the Chicago Bears were still in a position with a little bit better execution that they could have won this game. But it is what it is there. All right, with that said, though, now, what does the playoff picture look like? The Bears fell short of winning this game against the San Francisco 49ers that would have still had them in a position to be able to win the one seed in the NFC. We're still going to be in the playoffs. First time since 2020 since we've been in there. That's great. It is what it is. But the Bears now can still clinch either the number 2 or the number 3 seed overall in the NFC. They're not going to get a bye week, but they can still get that. As the standings are right now, the Seattle Seahawks are number 1 in the NFC, with the Chicago Bears and Philadelphia Eagles tied for number 2. The Carolina Panthers come in there at number 4. The San Francisco 40, which is crazy, them being 8-8. The San Francisco 49ers come in there next, and then the Rams, and then the Green Bay Packers at 5, 6, and 7, respectively. How can the Bears still clinch the number 2 seed, right? We control our own destiny. We need a win over the Detroit Lions. If we get a win, we're the 2nd seed in the NFC. That's just it. If we get some help from the Commanders and they beat the Eagles, we also will get the number 2 seed as well, and that will put us in a rematch with the Green Bay Packers on opening night of the playoffs at Soldier Field if that were to happen for the Chicago Bears. How the Bears can get the 3 seed. If we lose to the Lions and the Eagles beat the Commanders, we would then be the number 3 seed. So that means we still get to host a playoff game, just one, against either the Niners, the Seahawks, or the Los Angeles Rams. But you want to get that when it comes down to it. So when you look at potential wild card week matchups for the Bears can face off against the Green Bay Packers if we beat the Lions or the Eagles lose to the Commanders. If that happens, either one of those things happen, we're facing off against the Green Bay Packers in the opening week of the playoffs. And Packers-Bears, 3 in the playoffs, man, that C-Dub on the live call for that, it'd be crazy. It could be the Chicago Bears versus the 49ers if we lose against the Lions and the Eagles beat the Commanders, and the San Francisco 49ers and the Seahawks would have to beat the 49ers as well, and the Rams would have to win out. So there you go on that one. That is the scenario there. It could be the Bears versus Rams if the Bears lose to the Lions and the Eagles beat the Commanders and the 49ers beat the Seahawks and the Rams win out as well. Then it'll be Bears 49ers. It could be Bears Rams in the same scenario as well. And then the Bears versus Seahawks. If the Bears lose to the Lions and the Eagles beat the Commanders and the Rams lose to the Falcons or the Rams lose to the Cardinals, it'll be the Bears versus Seahawks. So those are our possible opponents. Either the Bears and Packers, the 49ers, the Rams, or the Seahawks. Those are the matchups that we could have. And all those matchups offer their own different thing. I'm not going to get into a whole breakdown of what each matchup wins. We'll just wait until next week happens. After next week, we'll get into the matchup of when we know what's going to happen and how the Bears can either win or lose that. But overall, like that's where we are right now as the Chicago Bears. So things are still there for the Bears for the taking there. We got to see what's going to happen overall with this team. But once again, the Bears own control over their own destiny. What they need to do to get there is simply win. Beat the Detroit Lions. Now, what are the Detroit Lions going to be playing for? Technically nothing, but it is the Lions versus the Bears with Ben Johnson, who left them to come to the Chicago Bears, being a catalyst there. I expect the Lions to be able to show up. We'll see if Don Burr actually shows up or if he's quiet somewhere in his corner crying because of what happens. But, we'll see over there what happens with that one. But we do got some injury updates to get into that I do want to talk about. One, we kind of talked about it with Luther Burden. It's looked at as a quad injury. It's right now not feared to be a big-time injury for him. So it seems like it's going to be good there that even if he does sit out against the Detroit Lions, seems like he's in pretty good shape to not miss much time there. He may not miss any time. Of course, they're going to wait to do some scans today. We should get some word on what the severity of the issue is today exactly. But as it seems right now, it's not feared to be anything serious. It's not feared to be anything that he's going to miss, the playoffs or anything like that. So that's a good sign there. You want Luther Burden. We talked about him, how he's become such a trusted weapon for Caleb Williams, a trusted weapon in this offense. You want Luther Burden out there when you can get him out there. Just period, point blank. So good news on Luther Burden. Bad news, though, on Noah Sewell. Right now, Noah Sewell, it's believed to be a torn Achilles for him, which would end the season for sure here, and it may leave him out a considerable amount, maybe even at over the 2026 season as well. Noah Sewell was a standout for the Bears early on in the season. When we had all our linebackers injured, Noah Sewell came in and had himself a big start to the season. He got hurt, never quite got back up to that level as well, but he's been really good for the Chicago Bears team. He was the projected strong side linebacker. Dennis Allen has loved Noah Sewell, and Noah Sewell has really seen his career reinvigorated under Dennis Allen, as has Tremaine Edmonds. And so now losing him and losing some of that of what he's brought to this team with his 59 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 1 fumble recovery as well, it just means that DeMarco Jackson is going to continue being somebody who has already thrived for the Chicago Bears when we've had some injuries. And now we're looking at DeMarco Jackson to continue that for the Chicago Bears team. Injuries have been a big part of this story of the season for the Bears. So I can't even say that I'm surprised that we get another one as it comes down to the wire in this season for the Bears. But, you just got to figure it out. It's next man up. It's been next man up all the year. Shout out to a speedy recovery. Prayers up for a speedy recovery as quick as possible for Noah Sewell. But at the end of the day, it's now expected that it's going to be a torn Achilles, and that means that he's going to be out for quite a while. He may not even be there healthy at the start of next season. And health has been a concern for Noah Sewell. Now, it hasn't been the kind of reoccurring injuries that like Jaquan Brisker had with concussions or anything, but it's just injuries have been a big part of Noah Sewell's NFL career so far. But he's had a really good season so far this year. Hopefully the Bears stand by him. He's able to come back out here and play pretty damn well. Also, he's been really good at run stopping for the Chicago Bears. Hasn't been great in coverage over the course of this. So, that's been something that's definitely limited Noah Sewell. His inability to be really good in coverage has been loud, but for run support, he's been really good for the Bears this season. But DeMarco Jackson, he's also been that. And again, next man up mentality. We got Tremaine Edmonds, we got TJ Edwards back fully healthy. So I love to see that. Now it just becomes about what else do we get from these other players? Who stands out? Because the Bears are going to be in the playoffs, and I can't wait to see what that looks like for this team. But that's it. That's it for today's episode. I know usually we get into the mailbag, but I had a lot to throw at you guys. We'll get into the mailbag on tomorrow's episode, so leave those voicemails if you want to. If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. Share this with other Bears fans that you know we're trying to grow this channel as much as we can. We are heading into the playoffs, so buckle up. It's going to be a fun season. You guys can follow us at Shy Bears Central. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearscentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.